Epic Mickey, that one Wii game, you know the one. I decided to take a look at this game because, just look at it. Seeing when it first came out, I always thought the cover looked cool, but I always wanted to know, what's so epic about Mickey? And why is he scary? And who's this guy? Well, I'm glad you asked because it's actually a pretty cool story. Not too long ago in 1927, some guy named Walt Disney along with his friend UB Iwerk worked for Universal and were tasked to create a very funny little man. Together they created Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to star in the 1927 cartoon Trolley Trouble, and everyone was in love. People leaving the theater were quoted with saying, "Definitely a funny character to remember for the rest of time." Knowing that they created something very special, Disney and Iwerk left Universal to create their own animation company with their own cool OCs. A year later they came out with a rather obscure character. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. They called him Mickey Mouse. The mouse became the #1 most recognizable and popular cartoon of all time. The same man from a year prior was asked about what he thought about the short, and he said, "Wow, I never seen anything like this. What a cool idea of a funny anthropomorphic creature making jokes on the big screen. This will definitely not create an entertainment monopoly in the future." Oddly specific, but let's move on. While Mickey Mouse enjoyed the spotlight, Oswald and his friends were left on the shelf and virtually untouched, becoming distant memories of a forgotten time. Until 2003, where the idea of making a game about Mickey and Oswald was floating around Disney Interactive Studios, which at the time was Buena Vista Games. It was pitched to Bob Iger, the right-hand man at Disney, but was shot down because Disney didn't own the rights to Oswald, that is, until Iger seized the throne and became CEO. He got his chance in 2006 when Al Michaels, a sports commentator who was working at Disney at ESPN, wanted to leave and join NBC, who was owned by Universal, to commentate on Sunday Night Football instead of Monday Night Football. I'm clearly not a sports guy, but does it matter what day you commentate on football? Or maybe he wanted his Mondays off, who knows. Disney offered Al in exchange for Oswald. Universal thought it was a fair deal and traded. Disney acquired Junction Point Studios to work on the game, and development began in 2007. Intended for the PS3 and Xbox 360, the game instead came out 3 years later for the Wii, in November of 2010. The reason why Mickey looks the way he does is because Warren Spector, the director of the game, wanted to go back to the mischievous Mickey Mouse instead of the watered-down, family-friendly mouse we have today. What I think is really cool is that the first thing they did with Oswald was put him in a game. Not a cartoon or a movie, but a game. Which means Disney had a lot of faith in this project, and it says best Wii game in the back of the box for crying out loud. But does it really beat out Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2? Xenoblade? No More Heroes? Skyward Sword? Oh, okay, maybe that one. Well, let's begin and find out. And starting the game, you see Mickey striking an action pose, which to me looks a lot like Sonic. The eyes, the pose, it's probably just me. We start with a CG cutscene, and honestly, for a Wii game, it looks really good. They even got the voice actor of Yen Sid from Kingdom Hearts to reprise his role, already off to a good start. Mickey, seeing something through his mirror, accidentally sends him to Yen Sid's tower, where he was working on a miniature version of Disneyland he was making out of magic paints. Yen Sid leaves his work unattended, and Mickey tries to create life using the brush, but being a dumbass, he spills the paint and thinner all over the map. Knowing he messed up, Mickey gets out of there quick, and we're led to believe he lived out his entire movie and cartoon career. And man, the amount of fan service in this game is incredible. There's so many deep cuts in here. Mickey's past catches up to him, and I'm assuming this is what seeing a sleep paralysis demon feels like. Mickey wakes up strapped onto a table and sees a mad doctor trying to rip his heart out. Mickey manages to escape and fight back. The doctor escapes, but not before Oswald shows up to mess with the machine the doctor was using, and it goes wild. Mickey picks up the brush and with the help of a gremlin named Gus, break the machine, and this is where we learn about the gameplay. It starts as a 3D platformer, So you jump and shake the Wiimote to do a spin attack. But the main gimmick of this game is the paintbrush that started this mess. You can use the Wiimote to target certain areas of the world and use paint and thinner on them. The paint will create objects while the thinner will get rid of them, with puzzles around the park now requiring you to either create platforms or erase obstacles to make your way through each level. It can be used on enemies as well. The paint will befriend the enemies while the thinner melts them away. And the game wouldn't have this mechanic unless it's important to the story, so from now on I'll try to befriend as many enemies as I can. Oh, and we're also told this through 2D animated cutscenes. If there's one thing I love more than games, it's cartoons, and boy am I charmed at these cutscenes. They have this pastel style that makes everything look so vibrant, and it feels so good to just look at. They're not voiced, but they have captions, which could be a reference to silent cartoons. I never expected these coming from a game that looks like this. Anyway, we chase Oswald through this dismal Disneyland and come upon these projectors. The projectors act like portals to the next area, and when you jump through them you're taken to a 2D platforming section that's based on all the 1920 Mickey and Oswald cartoons, and ah man, do these levels look familiar.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the...
They're not difficult at all, and don't even require the paintbrush. You just have to platform your way to the end. And at the end of the beginning area, you fight the It's a Small World clock face, and it's accompanied by a distorted evil version of the theme, which is really cool if you're familiar with the ride. Using the paint, you restore it back to its original happy self, and from there you travel to the main hub area, Mean Street. I wasn't quite sure why it was called Mean Street until I accidentally ran into the street murals a few times thinking it kept going. At the end of Mean Street is the iconic Walt-and Oswald statue surrounded by 4 projectors that lead to other areas in the park. Here we learn my least favorite part of the game. Fetch quests. Quest, side quest, mission, task, whatever you want to call it, it boils down to chores. Some projectors need to be fixed, and often characters ask you to run errands for them, which means either get items from someone else or just talk to some rando. These are just mindless tasks and don't require any thought or effort. You obviously don't have to do all the side quests, but the sparks you earn from them are required to fix the projectors to go to the next area. The first projector leads Mickey to Oztown, this world's version of Toontown. Here we learn that the wasteland was created for all the forgotten characters to have somewhere to stay, until the thinner disaster made their world, well, a wasteland. Oh, and here we run into our old friend, animatronic Goofy. Damn, they got Donald and Daisy too. They ask us to help them find the rest of their body that's scattered across the wasteland after the Mad Doctor turned them into robots. Beyond Oztown lies Mickey Junk Mountain, a mountain made out of junk and Mickey Mouse merch and memorabilia. And this has got to be the coolest area thus far, with the whole Mickey landfill aesthetic going on. The mouse heads look pretty scary and remind me of the old Disneyland costumes. At the top of the mountain is where we finally meet Oswald. He confronts Mickey about stealing his limelight and being the reason why all the forgotten characters are here in the first place. Oswald tells Mickey that he's the only one allowed to leave since he's the only one with the heart. That's kind of a crazy meta concept. If you're forgotten by the real world, you're banished into this separate society? Yeesh, talking about adding insult to injury. Wait a second. What other game has you kill or befriend foes while trying to escape a place you fell into, and only escape because you have a heart? Anyway, Oswald informs Mickey and Gus that they can escape through Tomorrowland using the rocket that's there. Mickey fixes the projector and heads to Tomorrowland. The 2D section leading there has got to be the most visually impressive one in the game. The neon colors stand out, and I rewatched the short it was based on, and it's impressive what they did with the level with only the few background details they had in the animated short. Well, Mickey finds the rocket only to find out that the Mad Doctor sabotaged the rocket, preventing anyone from escaping. Oswald, who got there before us, tells us that the Mad Doctor scattered the missing parts of the ship into the last 2 worlds, and we have to go and get them back. Ugh, fine. But first we gotta fight this Peatronic for some reason. He kinda just comes out of nowhere. Though, shout out to the Tron-inspired design. It looks something straight out of Kingdom Hearts. We make friends with him, and we head back to Mean Street, only to see that the town is overrun by monsters. Oswald tells Mickey to take care of it, and that he'd do it himself, but wants to see how Mickey handles the situation. Okay? See, this is exactly why Mickey rose to fame, cause all Oswald does is sit on his ass while we do all the work. Mickey saves the town, and this leads to the most egregious form of padding I had to sit through. Not only do you have to run fetch quests to open the projector to the jungle world, but then in the jungle world you have to run errands for people, and one of them asks you to go all the way to Oztown and back, which means you gotta run through the 2D sections like 4 times, which just adds to the time. I just want to finish this fetch quest to return to the bigger fetch quest. Ugh, I guess it was worth it for the fucking Zelda reference, I guess. You paint and thin your way through the pirate-themed world and destroy the machine that was turning the pirates into robots. Oh, I probably should have mentioned that before, but it doesn't really matter. Mickey runs into the robotic Captain Hook, and you have the option to kill him yourself or free Peter Pan, and he'll take care of it. Well, I took the easy way out and made it to the top of his ship to free Pan. Oh, that's why. Finally, one more projector. This one leads to the Easy Bog world, which is based off the Haunted Mansion. But when I was younger, I thought it was the White House. In this world, you can either help the ghosts scare the townsfolk, or help the people build up their courage to not be afraid of the ghosts. Being the goody two-shoes I am, I helped the people and made my way to the Haunted Mansion. You can read the surrounding tombstones, and Jesus, I thought this was a kid's game, God. You do some paint and thinner puzzles and make your way up to the mansion, and let me tell you, the last 2D section in this game would have scared me when I was younger, cause look at this Grim Reaper, Jesus, that shit's scary. And at the top of the tower, Mickey finally faces off against the Mad Doctor. Mickey defeats him and heads back to Mean Street. Oswald tells Mickey that the paint blot monster is attacking his headquarters at Mickey Junk Mountain, and that messes with our plans with the rocket. We head there, and this monster looks like the one who dragged us in here in the first place, so Mickey inks the kindness into him, and we finally did it. We can finally head home, right? Well, according to Oswald, this guy was just made out of the drippings from the thinner bottle that fell into this world. Mickey and Oswald seal the bottle, but Mickey and his big mouth had to fess up to his mistakes and tells Oswald that he caused the thinner disaster. Oswald is understandably upset by this, not only because Mickey stole his fame, but also his home, and also caused his girlfriend to disappear. Oswald climbs to the top of the bottle and has a tantrum that accidentally unleashes the rest of the thinner monster into the world. The blot monster grabs Gus and Oswald and keeps them hostage in exchange for Mickey's heart. Mickey agrees and lets his heart go in exchange for his friends. The blot monster grows bigger and spreads to all the other worlds. Things are looking down for the gang since now no one can escape with the rocket, but they can get to the monster using the rocket. Oswald and Mickey split up. While Oswald gets the rocket ready, one last time you have to go world to world to get rid of the tentacles that are sucking the color out of the park. Mickey and Oswald rendezvous at Tomorrowland and blast off towards the monster. The plan was originally to crash into the monster's heart, killing it, but the monster just kinda smacks the rocket out of the air, and it crashes into the castle where the adventure started. Oswald goes on ahead to distract the monster while tasking Mickey to set up 4 sets of fireworks aimed at the monster to take him down. You platform your way up to the castle, and this has got to be the most annoying part of the game. Random tentacle arms come out of the walls, and if you get hit, you'll be knocked into the bottomless pit, and you have to do the area over again. When you meet at the top of the castle, you're ready to launch the attack until Oswald and Gus are taken again, and Mickey jumps into the body of the blot to help them. You take down its insides and finally free Mickey's heart. Oswald catches it, but with a heavy heart, returns it to its rightful owner. Oswald detonates the fireworks, and the explosion kills the monster and sends Mickey back home. The color comes back to the wasteland, and Hortensia comes back and gives Oswald a big ol' kiss. Yensid banishes Mickey back to his dimension, but not before letting you see what your actions caused upon the world. The people you helped are celebrating, while the ones you didn't aren't so happy. But it's cool that at least it shows you who to come back to and help, right? Well, let me just reload my file and go back, and it resets your file automatically. What? Okay, I'm good. I'll just watch the 100% ending on YouTube. This game has charm. From the cutscenes to the references, everything in this game is really cool if you grew up with Mickey, but the game itself is just kind of okay. I'm not a big fan of the fetch quest that slowed down the pace of the game to a crawling halt. Exploring the world was neat, but since the game isn't a collectathon, there isn't much reason to explore. Sure, you'll find the occasional gremlin that if you free him, does the puzzle of the area for you, but that's about it. I only really liked 2 areas in the game, the beginning section when you're chasing down Oswald, and Mickey Junk Mountain. Every other area was either empty or uninteresting or just a hassle to get by. As for the 2D sections, while aesthetically pleasing, are like I said, a walk in the park compared to you-know-who. The game is incredibly linear, and that's okay, but there just isn't much going on except, huh, I can't go forward, should I use paint or thinner? And it's usually paint, but I also ran into trouble forgetting I could use thinner. The game is incredibly generous with its lives. Or lack of, actually. You just have health, and if you run out, well, you go back to your last autosave, which the game does very often. As for the soundtrack, it was okay. It sounds like Disneyland ambient music, which just means it sounds like music that plays at Disneyland. Some are catchy like Mean Street, but the rest I'm already forgetting. I mostly kept going for the story and cutscenes. I would have gone back and made everybody happy if the game didn't just reset your file. This game feels like it should have had a bigger impact. But without even a final boss, this game is more memorable for its art than its gameplay. Speaking of which, shout out to the attention to detail on keeping Mickey's iconic 3-circle design on screen at all times. Even when only seeing Mickey's side profile, the ears moved to keep his model faithful to the original 2D design. Kingdom Hearts doesn't even do this, and you get to see Mickey's weird disc ears. The game isn't bad or terrible, just kind of generic. As for best Wii game, not likely. Sorry, G4 TV. Now, should you get it? No, I just told you the entire game. Okay, but really, for the curious, sure, it's super cheap everywhere and not hard to find. As for everyone else, I'm sure you can find a better 3D platformer. But there's much more to explore for Mickey. Perhaps the sequel fixes these issues. Thank you again for watching. Next video will be a little different, but I hope you stay tuned by subscribing. Like if you think Mickey is epic, and comment what your favorite Mickey or Oswald short is. I have other reviews up too, so make sure to check those out, and don't forget to have a good one.